Hey there everyone, how's it going? My name is Stanley and welcome to Final Fantasy XIV commentary. In today's commentary, I would like to talk about diadems and the recent controversy that's been happening with the weapon drops from the diadems. As of recent patch, diadems have gotten an upgrade and an updated map to the content, which allows players on a higher gear scale take on harder mobs and harder enemies and harder fates in order to accomplish and hopefully get a chance of getting some really good loot. And one of the few loot that you can actually get that is exceptionally good is the item level 280 weapons, which rarely drop from emergency questlines, and I believe only one player can obtain them per party, if not per alliance. These weapon drops are extremely rare and extremely RNG in the type of stats that you're gonna get for them, and half the time you won't even get weapons for your current class. As far as I understand, a lot of the people that I personally know that play the game with me pretty regularly, out of all the weapons that they've been able to get, they got weapons that are not even for their main class. I had my buddy Snow actually receive a scholar book when he mains primarily a Dragoon, which gives him a reason now to work towards leveling a scholar after he already leveled an Astrologian as his main healer. While the incentive that he has right now to level his scholar is pretty strong, a lot of players are concerned regarding the implementation and whether these particular pieces of gear will be best in slot, and whether or not it devalues the progression that other players have made before in the past to obtain the current gear. I'll put up this little picture right here to explain it as best as I can. Progression rating plus 8 weeks of clearing will get you the Alexander weapon, 15 months of mindless grinding will get you the Anima weapon, but killing a dinosaur, LOL, gets you an item level 280 weapon. Now many players have been concerned regarding whether this weapon is going to be any good, whether it's going to be in best in slot, because technically the weapons do have better weapon damage and better spell damage regarding the initial stats. But if you look at the actual stats that the weapons get, the problem with diadem gear is that it doesn't have good enough stats as you'd say you would get something from Alexander. In Alexander, when you get one particular piece of gear, typically it will come with 3 or 4 separate stacks of stats, either for skill speed, spell speed, determination, critical accuracy. Most of the gear that I've been getting in diadem, not all of it, but most of it, has been primarily either delivering me with 2 sets of stats, like maybe dexterity and vitality, maybe dexterity and determination for one of my bard rings, or tanking necklace that gives me vitality and parry and nothing more. Does not raise skill speed, does not raise determination, does not raise critical strike, does not raise accuracy. The stats on a lot of the diadem armor is pretty basic. I mean, the item level definitely is really nice, and the fact that it gives you any stats at all is extremely nice, but it doesn't have the balance that a regular piece of gear would have, something you could grab from Alexander, which does divvy out stats pretty responsibly with some accuracy here, some crits, some spell speed, and so on and so forth. A piece of gear from Alexander is more balanced in what kind of rewards and what kind of stats it actually contains per piece of gear compared to diadem gear, which is at random. Whenever you get a piece of gear in diadem, it can have random stats. It primarily have either strength, either vitality or dexterity, or maybe mind or piety or intellect as the primary stat, and maybe it will have an alternative stat in parry. Maybe they'll have an extra skill speed. Maybe they will have 4 extra stats and be actually balanced. Maybe they won't be balanced whatsoever. That's the problem with diadem gear. There's a lot of RNG that goes into receiving the stats on the gear compared to, let's say, something you can get from Alexander, which you know will come in with a skill speed, a critical chance, an accuracy, a determination, a piety, a mind stat, whatever your gear you're trying to work for depending on whichever class you are. But the question is, are the weapons going to be best in slot, and what was the point of people grinding Alexander and grinding the animal weapons for as long as they did when they can go to a diadem and obtain an item level 280 weapon currently in Final Fantasy XIV? What was the effort? What was the effort wasted for the players that put a lot of hard work and dedication into rather running Alexander with 8 weeks of clearing or 15 months of grinding for Anima? Recently at PAX, i280 made a statement regarding the diadems, and the translator stated as follows. I'll leave the link to this quote in the description below. It's going to be a Reddit post. They've said, "You all need to calm down. It is very rare. You need to go to diadem, get lucky on emergency mission, get a lucky 280 drop, get it on the right job, get the right stats. It's like winning a jackpot. just enjoy the content, you all need to calm down. Now this was directly quoted from the translator. I believe the translator might have come off as either insensitive or dismissive of the tone, but what I believe they're trying to mean is that this is not a major issue, though this is something that players should not really worry about. As I'm reading this, I'll leave the links to everything below. I have a Reddit post right there. There was a rough translation of exactly what Yoshida said regarding the Anima weapon, which roughly translates, I believe this might have been done through Google Translate, I don't know. It says, well, but in practice, because of the Anima weapon, or because for the Anima weapon, you can reliably set all the secondary stats and create the weapon you want. I think nonetheless Anima weapons are the strongest, which many people have deciphered already to exactly mean that he believes that the worth of Anima weapons is far more valuable than Diadem, considering you can customize your stats to your own liking, therefore making it the strongest weapon. Thank you Evelyn Mile on Reddit for summarizing that perfectly and so eloquently. I really appreciate that, and I believe that is actually correct. See, with the Anima weapon, you have the ability to create a weapon that is best working for you, which outvalues the Diadem's random chance of stats completely. And I believe UCP is trying to say that you're way better off having the controlled environment with the Anima weapon compared to complete randomness with the Diadem weapon. If you really want to find a weapon or work towards a weapon with the best stats for your current class, UCP has stated that the best way to do that is to pursue the Anima weapon. At the moment, the Diadem weapon is simply there as a lucky chance. Just like he said, it's like winning a jackpot. In order to meet all the criteria perfectly for the weapon to be the best in slot weapon, maybe 1 or 2 players at all, if ever, maybe 3 tops, will ever receive a best in slot weapon. But even then, let's say hypothetically somebody does receive a best in slot weapon. What then? They can go into Alexander, they can probably pull out more damage. Let's say a Black Mage receives it, they can pull out a truckload more damage than before. That'll be the highest DPS in their static. That's good. I mean, that's really good for them. I'm glad that they're able to, do the content before Stormblood hits. But whenever Stormblood hits, what then? They're gonna end up replacing the gear, and the gear is just gonna be another glamour set. They're gonna be able to glamour the weapon onto another weapon if they really want to. At that point, the gear will not matter, because see, the thing is though, I would stress about it if this was done mid Heavensward. Like, let's say if it was done in patch 3.3 and there was a possible chance of getting a best in slot weapon that could compete with the raid weapon or the Anima weapon severely, that would actually outclass the Anima weapon and the raid weapon severely. But this is the end of the expansion. Diadem was introduced in the very last patch of the expansion in order to give players something to do while we wait for Stormblood. I mean, in a couple months, Heavensward is going to be replaced with Stormblood anyway, and the gear that we have right now will be replaced by better gear that we will be able to grind out and unlock in Stormblood. So at this point, I do not believe there is a major stressor regarding the weapon. I mean, like Yushpi said, even if somebody does meet the criteria for the perfect jackpot that they win, let's say they get the best in tier, best in slot weapon, though even then they will not be able to use it for a long time. They'll be able to use it for a little bit in Stormblood, but then eventually replace it when they reach level 70, and they'll get a better weapon. And there's no guarantee that even there'll be another Diadem in Stormblood, although I do really appreciate the Diadem. I actually really like what they got going on here with the Diadems. I've been really working hard on making sure that I can acquire better gear for my alt classes. I recently hit level 60 on my Dark Knight and my Astrologian, and I've been working really hard on leveling those separately. And every now and then, whenever I get a tanking set or when I get a healing set, I can utilize that on my Astrologian or my Dark Knight. I've received several Ninja and Lancer pieces of gear. I've never received a weapon so far after my 6 or 7 runs of Diadem so far, so even getting an emergency mission for me is extremely difficult. There's no guaranteed chance that I'll even get a mission ever. But that's the fun of it. It gives me a reason to come back to the Diadem and actually grind it for a little bit more and try it for a little bit more to get those emergency missions, to actually participate in them, to get a chance or gamble within getting a weapon. Hopefully getting a weapon for one of my classes so that I can level them to 60 and start utilizing the weapon with the, with whatever stats that it has. I mean, everything's going to be replaced in Stormblood anyway, so I might as well just have a little bit of fun with it and focus on leveling and gearing out other alts so I can take him into some of the harder content. There have been plenty of times where we're doing Aquapolis, or if you're doing bird farms where a tank needs to leave or a healer needs to leave, and I sadly cannot replace them efficiently as one of my healer or tank classes because my Dark Knight and Astrologian are severely undergeared, and this Diadem allows me an opportunity to just gamble and have fun and run around and do this big open world raid and participate with other players, either I queue randomly with, or people in my free company, my friends, and just go for a fun hunt. It actually feels like a really fun adventure, and the rewards are sometimes not perfect, but every now and then I'll get a piece of gear and I'll be pretty happy that I can utilize the piece of gear for my tank, my healer, or even to upgrade a piece of gear that I haven't upgraded fully on my bard. It gives me reason to come back to Diadem every now and then, and I really enjoy it, and I think it's going to be perfect for me, especially towards the end of a couple months before Stormblood hits. So I believe what USHP was trying to say, even though the translator might have came off slightly rougher there, I believe what USHP is trying to say is just don't worry about it, don't stress about the gear as much, just simply have fun before Stormblood hits. Enjoy the Diadems for what they are and just have fun playing with other people and just having fun doing emergency missions and taking on difficult bosses and getting some gear. Now, I do not want to sound dismissive. I understand some players, for them, gear and best in slot is extremely important. I completely understand that, and I don't want to dismiss it. But you have to understand that Heaven's Ward and endgame content for Heaven's Ward is going to be ending pretty soon. We're going to be going to Stormblood in June 20th, so I wouldn't really worry about stressing so much about reaching the best in slot gear or even having a fear of this particular weapon being best in slot. There are so many factors that go into the weapon even, becoming even a best in slot weapon in the first place. So far from the screenshots that I've seen online, it seems like people are getting gear with some decent stats, but it's not the best stats, so it's not something in best in slot. It's nice to receive a piece of gear or receive a weapon that you can level other alts for. For example, my buddy Snow received a Scholar book, and he doesn't play Scholar, and now this gives him a reason to actually level a Scholar. It gives him a reason to check out a class that he never tried out before, since he mains primarily Dragoon and he has a healer as his Astrologian and he has a warrior for a tank. And this gives him a reason to actually explore other classes, and I think it's actually pretty neat. It gives him a reason to start grinding out Summoner if he really wants to utilize that Summoner book. I would agree if there's a high RNG chance of getting the best in slot gear from Diadem, but granted, there's so many factors that go into it. Like USHP says, it's literally a jackpot. I do not think it's much of an issue, nor do I think players need to stress over it. Just enjoy whatever endgame content we have for Heaven's Ward, enjoy the Diadems, have fun playing with your free company and your friends, and just doing some endgame content, some Diadem, some raids, some bird farms, some PvP for the Gara gear, and simply have a good time. I don't believe it's really worth stressing over best in slot now, since, June 20th, the big date, is right around the corner. Nevertheless, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is a major issue that it does need to be addressed by Square Enix. I would love it if you could leave me some feedback over in the comments below and let me know your thoughts on the issue or the matter. Do you think Square needs to address it? Do you think Square needs to rectify it? Or do you think it's not that big of a deal? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to read that a little bit later throughout the day. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. My name is Stamriel. Like, subscribe, and as always, have a good day. And I'll see you all next video of whatever I make. See ya!